It's a great day in Kershaw County. We have a quorum of all members present. I welcome you here to the All-American County, Kershaw County, and we celebrate today an important event later on in the event with a resolution in honor of one of our fallen soldiers, so to speak. I thank you all for coming. We should also keep in our prayers Chief Spitzer, who is, I'm told, recovering, another one of our great first responders for whom we have the highest esteem. And with that, we are called to order. I would like now for you all to stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we remember the words of the good book that says, "Blessed is that nation whose God is the Lord." And we hope we respond in that spirit and in the word and fact to worship you by our service here for the people of Kershaw County, all to your honor and glory. All this we ask in the name of our Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. DeBose, we now move to public comments. Sir, do we have anyone signed up?
Yes, we have Larry Graham signed up, and I believe he has some other individuals with him.
And some very good people indeed. Mr. Graham, would you come up and introduce the party with you?
Greetings. We're coming on behalf of the Department of Mental Health, and I'm here to introduce Kimberly Gaines, who is the new director of our local clinic. And she has 25 years
Talk
experience.
into the mic, please, sir.
She has 25 years experience with Department of Mental Health, and she'll do a great job. We're also rolling out a program called Roads of Independence, and the Department of Mental Health is opening up a new office here in Camden, and they're here to tell you about that.
Oh, great. Thank you very much.
First of all, I want to say thank you to the council for allowing us this opportunity to speak on this afternoon and giving us the opportunity to relate to you the things that we're currently doing and the visions that we have for 2020. In our adult clinic, we have restructured crisis and triage to be better equipped to handle the crisis, the volume that's coming through our doors. We have a vision of greater collaboration with our community partners, as well as hopefully this year, we'll be working with the detention center and Chief Cato, as we will be sending out a designated staff person to do assessments with the inmates. We are working with churches in the area to promote suicide prevention, as well as to help them in any areas of mental health. For the first time ever at our adult clinic, we will be providing LGBTQ safe place groups for adults. We are currently on Fridays providing DBT groups for adults, and we are hopefully looking forward this year to mental health court in collaboration with Judge Branham. On our children's side, we are bursting out at the seams with referrals, as we have 10 staff that are designated to the school-based services, as well as we're providing DBT substance abuse groups for high school, middle school students, anxiety groups, anger management groups, life skills, and classes for parents. 1 second. We are very excited, as he has mentioned, the non-traditional services for our Roads of Independence program. This program will be for our vulnerable group of 16 to 25-year-olds in a non-threatening, non-stigmatizing location. The drop-in centers will be designed to provide resources for education, employment, physical health, as well as mental health. They have already mentioned that we have dedicated a site for this program at 620 West DeKalb Street here in Camden. We are also proud to note that at Kershaw County Mental Health, we also have Project Home, which maintains supported housing units for 5 individuals, and at this time, all of those units are filled. We also have rolled out, as of April 15th, the CCRI, the Community Crisis Response Intervention. This program was designed where crisis counselors go out to patients in crisis with law enforcement to divert safely them to hospitalization. We also, in 2020, hope to continue to increase our education and training in the way of suicide prevention and mental health matters and awareness. We thank you for this opportunity as we go forth in excellence and determination to provide our client services and the children in this community. We thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just want to say thank you and for y'all's support. And when I became before this council a couple of years ago as a new executive director, I made the statement that I like to dance and I was looking for partners. Well, we found a few, and I'm glad to add y'all to my dancing card. So I appreciate y'all's support, and I look forward to your continued support for the center and the job that these great folks do at the Mental Health Center. So thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you, and thank you again for your great support. Appreciate you.
Thank you. You came all the way from Sumter. It's an important message, and we'll arrange for a visit to your center. As you know, under our protocol during this period, there's no question and answer. It's not for a lack of interest. It's for us to move on with our business, and you can be assured we'll come see you. Thank you very much. Mr. DeBose.
That concludes the sign-up list.
Very good. We move now on to public presentations. On the screen before you is our order of business. The first item is workforce development and existing industry with Mr. Stuart Kidd. Sir, if you'd come up and limit your remarks within a 15-minute period, but leave some time for questions and answers. Please, Mr. Kidd.
Thank you. It's indeed both a pleasure and a privilege to share with you some updates on the lesser-known aspects of economic development known as existing industries and workforce development. And my face may be new to some of you, but I've called Kershaw County my home for over 30 years, and I've raised my children here. Therefore, this isn't just a job to me, it's a passion, because I get the opportunity to help my neighbors. And that's what we do, hopefully, at economic development. If you'll notice on the screen, at the highest level, we have 3 operating principles that I try to adhere to: provide value, build relationships, and make an impact. And we do this as we listen, connect, and assist our local industries. And one of the several vehicles we use to listen, connect, and assist is the Kershaw County Industry Association. And this association allows us to uncover issues and challenges, everything ranging from workforce and tariffs to basically whatever keeps them up at night. And this is an important venue for us because if all we do is our annual visits, we're wasting our time. We need to dig deeper to provide value. The Kershaw County Industry Association is based on something known as next-gen sector partnerships. And one of the important aspects of this is that the industries drive the agenda. We don't drive the agenda. When they come to our sharing meetings, our luncheons, we don't have pat presentations for them. We want to hear from them what's keeping them up at night. So when we go around the table, we let them tell us what their needs are, what's happening in the businesses. And only then do we actually talk to our other partners from SC Works and other organizations, as you can see listed on the screen, Central Carolina, Willard Technology Center. Then they can respond in relevant terms to what our industries need. So it's the industries that drive the agenda and not our other partners. We've had topics ranging from waste removal to workforce readiness, business-to-business connections, sometimes right across the table. Some of our industries are not really aware of partners that they can actually reach out to within our county to provide solutions that they're looking for. There's a small membership fee, and that really just covers their lunch and makes sure that everybody goes away happy. Some of the benefits of our industry association include a platform for influencing existing workforce programs and offerings. So they get to voice what they think is important. We can pass it along to Central Carolina. We can pass it along to other entities, the Kershaw County School District. It's also a forum for sourcing timely workforce development solutions and also benchmarking to see what else is going on up there. Fortunately, it's also a one-stop source for state, regional, and county economic development updates. Instead of an industry being hit 7-8 times a month by all these different entities that you see on the screen, they can come here and get the information that they need from us. So we like to think of ourselves as a hub. It's a single point of contact for all these fragmented services. So even though on a given meeting, we may only have a dozen or so government entities represented around the table, they know that I have actually a larger relationship network that I can reach out to, and almost all of these entities, I touch upon them through the course of a month or so. Let's take a moment to consider what our local industries tell us are our current workforce challenges and opportunities. I won't read all of these, but I'll just mention some of the threats that we're hearing. We have young people and people entering the workforce that believe that there's only one path to success. But this gives us an opportunity. Students now have a variety of opportunities to prepare for real-world jobs. Another threat they tell us about is training for jobs that don't exist. So we have to make sure that what's being provided through our schools and our Central Carolina is relevant to them. Assuming manufacturing jobs haven't changed, listen, it's not our grandfather's factory anymore. It's very different indeed. And so we have to help with that awareness campaign as well. Understanding the burden of debt, right? Student debt is a big challenge, and communicating that there are other options for them. And finally, the last threat that they're telling us is addressing future gaps resulting from an aging workforce when coupled with our low unemployment rate. We have some industries in our county that in the next 5 years will actually have 50% of their workforce retire. And so our job is to make sure that we have a continuous pipeline feeding those companies so that they can continue to thrive. In fact, one of the other things we try to do with Next Gen Partnerships approach is not to be professional visitors, but actually to help local industries by directly impacting core business processes. And I came from a corporate job for about 27 years, working in HR with workforce development. And next week, we actually have an offering, and we have approximately 9 industry participants coming. It's a workshop on succession planning and talent mapping. And it was something that they asked for, not something that I pushed upon them. And we have additionally people from the county and also the Chamber of Commerce that will be attending that workshop. So we think that's going to be a very valuable tool for their HR directors and their plant managers to use as they move forward. Future offerings through the next quarter are pretty straightforward. The natural follow-up to succession planning is, of course, apprenticeships. That's the other way we feed the pipeline. Second quarter, we'll be working on performance management. That's evaluation and assessment. And then professional development, which is, in fact, training. Third quarter, we do our annual wage and benefit survey. And that's very important because our local industries need to know what their competition is and what other companies are offering. It's a rather extensive survey. We collect a lot of data on benefits, on vacation time, health coverage, you name it. And it's a very important tool, and they ask for that. Fourth quarter, we do what we call our manufacturing awareness campaign. And we believe that there needs to be 3 prongs to this campaign. In the past, we were only really firing on one piston, but starting this past year, we've now expanded it. So in addition to our annual 8th grade manufacturing and trade expo, we start out in September with a counselor awareness seminar. And that's where we bring in the school counselors so that they can understand what the key issues are and how our young people can find employment in our local businesses right in their own backyard. Then Parents' Night comes in October. If you don't have the parents on their side, you can talk to the counselors, you can talk to the students, but when the students go home at night, who do they hear from? The parents. So we have to have an awareness campaign for parents as well to tell them about all the opportunities that are available to them from our local industries and in a manufacturing environment. And then last but not least, we have the 8th grade manufacturing and trade expo, which means we not only have manufacturers, but we have carpentry, we have heating and cooling, we have plumbing, we have utilities all represented there. And it's a round robin. We have 50 students from all 4 middle schools, 200 people, and we have our industry partners coming, and they have hands-on interactive displays. So it's a wonderful way for industries to spotlight themselves and also for our young people to learn about what it will take for them to enter the workforce successfully. You can see here the awareness campaign as it moves from the counselor briefings through parent awareness night. And at this time, I just want to give you a snippet, just a 2-minute snippet of what our students experience in that manufacturing expo. Annie?
technology beat us here.
That's all right. We,
Serve your time, I suggest.
quite all right. We'll move forward. In fact, I'll send all of you a link to that so that you can view that. We'll move ahead. One of the other things we tried to do is we reached out to industries and we said, you tell us what you're looking for in your new hires. And what you're looking at here, these components in this workforce readiness program are things that they said were important to them. And these are things that I try to communicate with Kershaw County School District and also the Woolard Technology Center so that as they put programs together, they are aware of what the industry wants. So they're not building things in isolation or a vacuum. They're giving industries what they actually need. The good news is many of these components are already in place at many of our schools. So it actually validates what we're already providing. In addition, we do some other things as far as providing solutions for our folks. And what you're looking at here is just a snapshot of some of the just-in-time solutions we provided. We had the Industry Association respond with a Thermoid job fair, which some of you may recall. We support mock interviews at Camden High School. I did a career presentation for North Central High School student body in its entirety. I've been a guest presenter at Central Carolina's Discovery Day. We connect local businesses with solutions for, believe it or not, recycling. We also have local businesses using our economic development facilities to plan and train their own people so they feel at home using our facilities. So we like to get that utilization up so that we're making sure that we use what we have been given. We've hosted 2 job fairs in the last year with another scheduled for the week after next. But we have other, what I believe are innovative solutions as well. For example, GE offers each employee $6,000 annually for tuition reimbursement, even those whose current employment has been suspended. So why not connect them and allow them to use some of that money right here at home? So Kershaw County Economic Development and our industry association partners, known as Central Carolina and SC Works, responded with a first ever GE Education Fair, where instead of coming to the job fair, they came to our facility. We had representatives of all their core programs and curricula there, and they helped people sign up and even understand better what financial assistance is available to them to be retrained and retooled for when GE gears up once again. Ongoing support is also provided 24/7 through our website, and the solutions there include virtual tours, online manufacturing tutorials, and we even do job postings for our local industries. So any one of these companies listed here plus others, you can go to our website, you can click on their name, and you can actually view a virtual tour. So our students can go to these places without interrupting them. We've broken down the barriers for our local industries as far as, well, we don't want to have a lot of students walking around. We don't have time to support that. Well, you know what? We now have virtual tours available for them. There's online manufacturing tutorials where they can get their feet wet by going on and learning about what manufacturing is. And then when companies contact us and they have a need in regard to a specific job opening, we post those there as well. So in conclusion, I hope that the impression that I've left you with is that we're a busy hive of workforce development, and it all happens at our consolidated campus, which we believe allows us to maximize human potential. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Gentlemen, comments?
Yeah, would you back
Al,
up
go ahead.
2 slides, please? I want to ask you a question. One more. Right there, connecting local businesses with solutions for recycling. What are you talking about?
So we had several companies that had large piles of lumber and wood that had built up over time. Connor Industries, and they said, what can we do with this? And it just so happened at that particular meeting, we had a representative from SC Commerce, and he reached out to, they actually have full-time people that deal with recycling. And they provided a list of people that can help them reduce that, come and take that away. We also worked with Hengst. Hengst was paying a large amount of money to remove some things that they were producing there. And when we contacted Department of Commerce, what they found was they could not only provide a less costly solution to removing those things, but in some cases would actually pay our local companies for what they were taking away. And I think that's a win-win.
Thank you.
Other comments? Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council. Mr. Stewart Kidd, I'm very quick to voice my concerns if I don't think things are going right, but I'm also just as quick to voice my position if I think things are going right. You are absolutely doing a fantastic job. I'm very impressed with what you've done. I wish we could have gotten the Manufacturing Expo up, because that really impressed me when I watched it, and I see what you guys are doing with the youth in our community and the partnerships. I tip my hat to you. I commend you. Keep working very hard. You and, is Lauren Reeder here? And she's another one. You two are absolutely what's right for economic development, and I appreciate what you guys are doing. And as I said to Mr. Carpenter, I certainly hope that the new economic development director will listen and take your input as well in moving this county forward. So I want to thank both of you for what y'all have done. Y'all are absolutely the right thing for economic development.
It's a privilege. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments? I've always said job one is helping current business be profitable, sustain them, and grow them. And this is what you're doing. That's excellent. And that's what I've been looking for some time. Can you send me copies of these slides? I've got a couple of meetings tomorrow in Washington, Columbia, and then one on Thursday on this topic. And a trained and ready workforce is the second part of that. And as you know, last night we had the Carolina Scholars who get our money from the city and the county, and they get a free 2-year education at CCTC. And one young man was graduating and said, you know, I'm debt-free and I'm making money. That's what it's all about, is helping our youth have a great future here in this county and helping industry have a great and sustainable, profitable experience. Thank you, Stuart. Other comments?
If I may, right quickly,
Mr. Jones, go right ahead.
I want to thank you, too. I'm the one who asked this to be put on the agenda tonight. I'm the one who wanted you to come and present this. And I know some of them have already seen it, but I just can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Especially, I hope, if any of you have not seen the 8th grade expo, I wish you would look at it, because it's just really, it just turns your heart when you see those kids so excited about the things you're looking at and talking to them about and working with them all. But anyway, I've said enough. Thank you so much.
That's quite all right. To sending each of you a link, which I will do once again. Everyone else here can go ahead and view it by going to our website, because it's available online for anybody to click on under that. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Well done.
Thank you.
Second item on the agenda is Sheriff Lee Bone concerning crime statistics. Sheriff, good afternoon. Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon. Just me or something?
It's you.
It's a hearing aid.
I passed one of these out to everybody on the
We got 'em.
council. You want to kind of follow along with it. We had a good year. First year in office, 2019, I think we've had a really good year, and I think we've got a bright future ahead of us. I think we're going to be getting more good news as we go along. Usually when you look at statistics, it's always good to have at least a 5-year numbers that you have out there to kind of give you something to compare to look at where trends are going. So that's what I tried to get. Unfortunately, we just went to our computer system, and I think the end of 2016, 2017 was basically a trial and error type year. 2018, 2019, we still had a lot of errors that we had to get to. I didn't want to present any numbers that wasn't accurate, so I'm really only going to have 18, 19 stats for you tonight. I'm going to try to go back 5 years on the ones I can get through the state and FBI. See our first slide here. We say in 2019, Kershaw County, we had the lowest murder rate in 5 years. We had the lowest violent crime rate in 5 years and lowest traffic fatalities in 5 years. Our drug overdose deaths were reduced by about 67% from 2018. We brought back our funeral escorts. We increased visibility by, I would say, about 50% out on the road with the addition of our cruise lights. I'm pleased with all of this here. I think this is something that the department should be proud of. We're moving forward, and we still got a long ways to go. Going into the first one, murder and non-negligent homicide rate. I'd like to put up at the first one here, you'll see the United States rate. This is murders by, it's per capita, for 100,000 population. That's what you got. So what you're seeing here is the last stat that FBI had for nation was 2017, 5.3 murders for every 100,000 people, citizens living in the United States. So that's, your rate is 5.3. South Carolina, this is what we got from SLED. Their most current one was 2018, which was 8. So you see South Carolina's got a higher murder rate than the nation does. However, Kershaw County, over the last 5 years, you'll see our rate is pretty low. See, in 15 was at 5, it was 6, 8, 5, and 2019 we're at 3. So we're actually below the national average on murder rate. Kershaw County is not a bad place to live. We do have an occasional bad incident. We do have a murder every now and then, and when we do, it tends to get a lot of attention because it's so rare here. That's how good of a county we do live in. We get to the bottom of them. The ones we have, the 3 you see on the board here, they're solved. I mean, they were solved very fast, and we got the guys who needed to be in jail as quick as we could. Actually, all of which are still in jail. Violent crime rate, again, we're looking back at the last numbers FBI put out for the United States was 382. That's 382 people out of 100,000 that were victims of violent crimes. That includes murder, robbery, aggravated assault, and a sex offense. I think those were the 4 they went by. So you're seeing 382 was for the United States. Again, South Carolina was a little higher than the United States average at 494. But you can see Kershaw County from 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, we're constantly going down in that number. And so we are, as far as violent crime rate in Kershaw County, we're lower than the United States average. Again, great day to be in Kershaw County. Traffic enforcement. As all of you know, I done away with the traffic unit when I first took office. We formed a core team with the guys from the traffic unit. However, we did tell all of our deputies it's their job to work traffic. All of our deputies are out there. With this, we had a 20% increase in DUI arrests in 2018. We took 20% more drunks off the road in 2019 than we had in 2018 without a dedicated traffic unit. Every deputy works traffic. Our traffic fatalities, you'll see over the years from the last 5 years, 18, 18, 19, 17, and 15 this past year. So we did go down with our fatalities. As you can see, this is not a high number, just like our murder rates is not a high number. Anything can set it off. I'm going to set this out so next year, if we happen to have a bad wreck where multiple people are, it's easy to turn these numbers around. Drug enforcement, our cocaine cases went up 63%. Our controlled substance went up 34%. Our meth cases went up 25%. Now, these are proactive numbers. These are not numbers saying that the cocaine usage is going up 63%. This is enforcement. We're enforcing these things more. Heroin was up 12%. Ecstasy and marijuana both went down in enforcement this past year. Drug overdose deaths, like I mentioned earlier, 2018 we had that was a record, 37. I think prior to that, the record was maybe 6 or 7 overdose deaths in a year's time, and they went up to 37. It blew up on us. But in 2019, we're at 12 plus. And when I say plus, we got 3 pending toxicology. So at the most we would have is 15, but for right now, we've got 12 confirmed overdose deaths for 2019. Some of the problems we're having in Kershaw County that I noticed in 2019, drug usage is still a problem here. We're definitely not saying we've beat the drug. I've always been of the belief that we need better rehab programs here. Drugs it's a business. It's a business, and the best way to take a business out is to destroy the market. If we're not doing something to help out with getting users off the stuff, getting the addicts clean, that's the best way to destroy the market. We'll never out-arrest everybody because somebody's always going to take their place. Unsecured vehicles is getting to be a real big issue here. This is a preventable crime, locking our car doors. People are just, 99% of the car break-ins we're getting are really not car break-ins. They're just somebody going and opening their doors. Yes, they're still a criminal for going in somebody's car, whether it's unlocked or not, windows down, it doesn't matter. They're still criminals. However, we can do something to try to prevent some of these crimes just by locking our doors and not leaving anything valuable inside your cars. Our theft from a motor vehicle rate went down slightly, 3.5%, but we still had 189 cars that were gone into. Motor vehicle thefts went up 15% to 92. 92 vehicles in Kershaw County was stolen, or 92 was reported to the sheriff's office. I'm not sure about the municipalities in the county, but 92 is a pretty high number, and like I said, the vast majority of those were keys left inside of their vehicles. This one right here really strikes a nerve, is our firearms stolen from the vehicles. We had 27 firearms stolen from vehicles, unsecured vehicles. We got to do better with that. We got to do better with that. I talked to Chief Floyd in Camden. They had 18 in Camden. So that's 45 between us and Camden. I'm not sure about Elgin or Bethune, what they may have had, but those numbers are climbing. I think as we get more people armed, more people carrying firearms, we start getting that responsibility level. We need to keep check on and make sure people are doing the right thing and keeping them secure. Yeah, it's our right to keep and bear arms. We don't need to forget that first word, keep. We need to keep them. We don't need to be giving them up. Our next one here, suicides. I think this is going to be a record here. Last year we had 21. I know our probate judge, Debbie Branham's not here, and so I'm going to talk about her behind her back, but she's been doing a really good job of getting ahead of this and doing everything possible to try to help out with this. This is a problem. It's not just Kershaw County. It's a lot of other places are having the same issue. Don't know why we're having the increase, but it's people like Judge Branham that's getting ahead of it and doing what needs to be done to do everything we can to prevent them here in Kershaw County. But in talking about the traffic fatalities, overdose deaths, and suicides, when I was going over these numbers here, I couldn't help but to think about our coroner. So I wanted to invite our coroner here tonight, and he wanted to give some stats from the coroner's office that's going to relate to some of the stuff I just talked about.
Well, it's like the sheriff said, but on the overall, deaths is way up this year, way up. We had 635 for 2019. Already for January, we're at 65. So it shows that, deaths are up. Natural's 570. Like I said, overdose is 12 plus. It's going to be 15 because I'm sure the three I'm holding behind my desk are definitely overdose. Accidental deaths is 10. Out of that, it's wheelchair, house fire, and electrocution. The rest of them is falls from elderly people. And, of course, he told you homicides is up. Drownings, we didn't have but 2 this year. One was due to a car running into a pond, and one was a young girl jumped off a pontoon boat. And at 635 deaths a year, that's 53 deaths average a month. That's 1.7 deaths a day in Kershaw County. And I'm glad to see the traffic come down. That's the first time ever, which, like Lee gives 19. Lee gives his, he had his up there. We have 19 ever since I've been in office from 15 to now, till 2019, and it was 15. And we really count 17 because one was a four-wheeler and one was a train. Because pedestrian got struck by a train, and we figure those as traffic fatalities, which Highway Patrol don't do a four-wheeler. And we've averaged 1 and 2 four-wheeler deaths a year in the traffic fatality end of it. And I guess that's about all I got to say here, but if anybody wants to come over to the morgue and visit it, come on over and see us. We welcome everybody over.
No, that concludes it. If y'all have any questions.
Questions, Mr. Bozard?
Suicides, how many of them was youth? I'd say youth below 20 years old.
What was that again?
21 suicides.
I'm not sure on the ages. I think the average age was like 56.
Average age like 70 something.
Was it 70?
Wow. Other comments? Mr. Jones, Jimmy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council, Coroner, Mr. West and Sheriff Bone. I think both of you are doing a remarkable job, and I will not be visiting your morgue, I hope anytime soon. No, I have no desire. But I do want to say to the sheriff, you said your DUIs are up, correct?
DUI arrest, yes.
DUI arrests are up, and you did away with the traffic unit, correct? Yeah, I mean, you reorganized, you restructured.
We've done away with a dedicated traffic unit who does nothing but traffic. All of our deputies work traffic with their regular patrols.
Gotcha. And also you lead funerals now too, don't you?
Yes,
Which
sir.
takes up manpower. And how much extra money do we give you to accomplish all the great numbers we saw tonight? Zero. You did a good job. That's my point in case, you're doing a great job. You're a good steward of taxpayers' dollars. You don't come in here and the first thing you think is, okay, I got to have more money to put at this issue.
Need more money. So.
I'm not going to offer any more either. But seriously, on a serious note, I really am impressed with the way you've done that. I mean, you've just totally restructured and reorganized and took the same funds and got great results. Great results. So, and I've always been a fan of yours. So thank you so much. Appreciate you being here tonight, both of you.
On the opioid issue, and in here you made a comment about more and better rehab. What are you talking about there so we can address that in the coming budget year?
I think we're getting there. I know the Alpha Center is expanding. We got again on our we got a good probate judge that's pushing a lot of mental health issues. We're willing to, with our new solicitor, we're willing to do whatever diversionary programs we can to treat addicts instead of just throwing them into jail. We'd much rather them get treatment and get over their sickness than to just keep stacking them into jail, which I'm sure if Cato was here, he would agree with that too. But when you're committing crimes, you're creating victims that we gotta account to. We gotta give them justice. So if we can take care of the addiction, then that's gonna clear up our crime rate. We've always known that, but I just think we can enforce it and lock people up. But example I always give is one of these superstores. If you go in and close it down, there's still a market there. Somebody's going to come in behind there, replace it, and go right back to work. So we got to work on that addiction just as much as we're working on enforcement.
The county voted to pursue a claim in the opioid litigation, and I was just wondering, with that, have you seen any progress, received any subpoenas or any requests for Narcan administration data or anything? I guess that would apply to you as well.
I haven't seen anything.
No movement yet?
Nothing I've seen at the office asking for any of that information.
Okay. I know the courts have been generally slow and that they're consolidating a lot of the cases, so it may come in time. Thank you.
What I was going to say is, what Ben mentioned, Narcan. Narcan is the big saver for us this year. That's why we don't have 40 or 50 up there. Because there's any given time you hear EMS paged out to a call, CPR is in progress. They shoot Narcan, they leave the patient at home, breathing. I'm in good shape. Narcan is a blessing. You got drug dealers that toting Narcan now.
Narcan multiple times over just a couple weeks.
EMS could probably tell you, Gerald, about there. They've got some, and by the fire service, it's been hit 4 and 5 times this year already, because they know they can go to extra edge, and call 911. But guess what? 9, 10, 12 plus didn't get the call. Yeah.
To treatment, I see what you mean. I see. Other comments? This has been a very illuminating, we've had 2 very fine briefings. This has been excellent understanding of the health of our county in so many ways. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Coroner. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Well done. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to the adoption of the agenda. The agenda is on the board. I believe we have an amendment, Mr. Connell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we take off the discussion of land jam under the new business heading and move it to the next council meeting in 2 weeks. We just need some more data there and some more logistics sorted out.
Very good. Can we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Snodgrass. Do we want to have any discussion there, please?
Just as general background, you have a promoter that's interested in the community that's done other large concerts, namely Drift Jam, if you've heard of that, out at Lake Murray at Spence Island, that owns a business near the Lake Wateree property and is interested in bringing a country western bluegrass type music festival to that property. And that was going to be some of the discussion, but again, I feel like we need to move it for a couple weeks and get some more things sorted out.
Thank you. And I believe we have another amendment. Why don't we take them in order and we'll just go through them. Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to add something to the agenda. I would like to make a motion in accordance with South Carolina Code of Laws, Section 3-4-80A, to add the following item to the agenda under new business. Action by Kershaw County Council pursuant to South Carolina Code, Section 4-9-30, 16.2, authorizing the Kershaw County Attorney to seek injunction relief in the name of the Kershaw County Council against a nuisance business. This motion is made because of the indigent circumstance exists at this item is not added to the current meeting agenda of the Kershaw County Council, considering due to concerns for the safety of the public. That is my motion.
Very good. Can we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Discussion. Mr. Jones, go right ahead.
Taking off the agenda is one thing, adding to it is another. I have just a couple of questions so I can get some clarification. You said this is dealing with an emergency, dealing with safety. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How long have we known about this?
I'm just getting the word on this as of yesterday.
Very good.
Well, but I mean, how long have we known about this situation? A couple of weeks?
I believe the sheriff's been aware of it for several weeks, yes, sir.
I guess my question is, why do we call a special called meeting if it was such an emergency instead of changing the agenda at the last moment tonight?
Let me
Excuse me.
Well, let me make a ruling here as a chairman. It's been proposed as an exigent issue, and that there is a proposal here that I'd entertain with the 7 men here, that we go into executive session because of the sensitive nature of this, and then we can come out of the executive session once we get to that point. Once we get to that point in the agenda under new business. Mr. Jones, back to you,
Thank
sir.
you, and Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I was glad to let you speak while I had the floor.
That's very nice.
I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying I need some clarification.
We were not requested to put in front of council until yesterday.
But we all, who requested?
The sheriff requested we put it on the agenda.
Mr. Jones?
Okay, Mr. Tucker, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, and I am too. That's in my district. And when I got briefed on this yesterday, this was something that we needed to handle as council. Circumstance has changed since the sheriff originally got involved, and we need to take it up as the governing body of this county. And so I'm asking for it to be on the agenda.
Yes, sir, and I understand that. I want y'all to understand something. I'm not saying I'm against what you're trying to do. I just have some questions, and I just wanted some clarification. That's it. And by the way, let me just say this too. Your district is my district.
Yeah.
And wait a minute, I'm not.
Go ahead.
What was I saying? But anyway, so we just decided yesterday we needed to have an emergency change in the agenda tonight.
It was requested of us
Requested,
yesterday,
okay.
yes, sir.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Snodgrass?
I was just going to add, Mr. Jones, I understand your concerns, but it's my understanding that when the agenda was created, I think we understood that this issue was resolved another way, and then now we have learned that it's not going to be resolved. So I don't know if that helps you or not. So it wasn't,
No, it doesn't.
at the time the agenda was created, it was, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, let me,
And so
once
now
again,
the circumstances have changed, and so now we do have to intervene.
If I'm-
and let me just once again state that we're going to go into executive session and a clarification here. When we get to that item in new business, fellas, we'll go through a full disclosure of what we know and all these questions. Don't want to prematurely reveal that given the nature of how this came to us. Mr. Jones, did you want to pick it up?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time. Members of the council, thank you for your time. And actually, I never thought, Mr. Snodgrass, that anything was resolved at any point in time during this. So what you're saying to me is the first time I've heard about it. And now we find it's unresolved. But I will have some questions in executive session, and may have some questions when we come out of the executive session, depending on what this county council tries to do. Because I think this is a very serious issue on a couple of fronts that we're dealing with tonight. Thank you.
Excellent point. With that, I think we can move to a vote. All in favor of Mr. Tucker's amendment to add the request of the sheriff for injunction on a business matter for relief of a nuisance issue, signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. Say again? And I'm getting to that.
Yeah.
I'm getting to that. Thank you. And we now, so that one's added. We move now to Mr. Connell's amendment to delete and move to the next meeting, discussion of land jams, signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and we now move to a vote on the agenda as amended with the addition of one item on the nuisance relief and the deletion of the land jam. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And the agenda is duly amended. Now we move to resolutions, the first of which is probably the most important thing I'll do all week, which is a resolution in memory of our friend, Mr. Gene Falconberry. The resolution is at tab A, and gentlemen, if you'll permit me the honor of reading this, and then we'll move to a vote. The resolution in loving memory of Mr. Gene Falconberry, whereas Samuel Eugene Falconberry served the people of Kershaw County as its premier first responder for 21 years and set a record of performance and of innovation in leading all aspects of county emergency services that made us safe in our homes and businesses. And whereas Gene Falconberry was born and raised in Kershaw County, he graduated from Barron DeKalb in 1975, a devoted member of Oak Ridge and Springvale Baptist churches, and husband of another great public servant, Daisy Branham Falconberry. With 3 daughters, Amber, Stacy, and Stephanie, along with 3 grandchildren, Ansley, Madison, and Owen. And whereas Gene Falconberry began his career at DuPont in 1975 and serving in many different departments and overseeing over 100 employees, during which time Gene volunteered at Westfield Fire Department from 1986 through 1996, working his way through the ranks to become the fire chief for Westfield Fire Department. And whereas in 1996 he became the deputy fire marshal for Kershaw County, and later the fire marshal and emergency management director in the year 2000. As fire marshal and deputy fire marshal, he established 5 substations, as well as the move of Blaney Fire Station to a county-owned station. With his leadership, Kershaw County Fire Department's apparatus and equipment were updated, which contributed to lowering the ISO ratings to benefit the citizens of Kershaw County. And whereas Gene was promoted to director of the Department of Safety and Emergency Services in 2015, accepting further responsibility of code enforcement, central communications, detention center, and emergency management services. Throughout, he managed county responses to a range of emergencies and the EOC during hurricanes, floods, snowstorms, ice storms, and tornadoes. And whereas in 2018, he guided the review and the renewal of our county volunteer services, providing staff support to the county's decision to reorganize county fire services with new leadership, organization, training, personnel, equipment, and fire stations in the hub and spoke system now being implemented. And whereas in 2019, he restructured code enforcement with new emphasis on litter control and pride in this community. Therefore, be it resolved that Kershaw County Council recognizes and honors the manifold achievements and unstinting services of Gene Falconberry for 2 decades of selfless service and sacrifice on behalf of his personnel and to the ultimate safety and security of the people of the county in their places of residence, work, recreation, and worship. Be it also resolved in token of which that a plaque in his memory and in celebration of his service be installed in the new Cassett Fire Station at an appropriate time. Gentlemen, may I have a motion to approve this resolution? And Mr. Bozard gives the first, a second. Second from Mr. Gardner. Discussion.
If I
Mr.
could,
Jones,
I'd like to
please
do
go
that.
right ahead.
We loved your dad. He and I go back to 1996. I'm not going to reiterate everything I said at the last meeting, but I'll never forget the time he walked in for the very first time and introduced himself to me. And they will never, ever, ever, even including you, Chief Ray, will have that personality that he had. He had a wonderful smile on his face. You know, people get mad at me. He never got mad at me. He just laughed at me. Remarkable man. What a public servant. And I think it speaks volumes to see the folks that are here tonight on his behalf. And Miss Daisy, we're there for you. We're your family. We're there for the entire family, the daughters, son-in-laws, the sister-in-laws, all of you. God bless y'all, and you're in our prayers, and if you ever need anything, we're here. Thank you.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Connell, please, sir.
Gene had such an impact on me in just a short few years. So I can't fathom how much he impacted and meant to all of your lives. Attending his funeral service is one of the more powerful things I've experienced in my life, to see how he had touched people so much. We love him and we miss him, and we're here for you.
Other comments? Mr. Bozard.
Yes, thank you. Sat in church with every Sunday with Daisy and Gene, and except the times when he was out watching gospel singing someplace, he wouldn't be in church. But anyway, he would call me on Sunday and tell me at church, everything on your farm looks good. So Daisy, you gonna check my farm when you go by and tell me everything's okay? But anyway, I appreciated Gene as a friend, and I appreciate you, Daisy. And it's good to see you back in church Sunday. Thank you.
Other comments? Yes, Mr. Snodgrass.
Sure. I'll just reiterate what I said last meeting. Of all the 7 men, I knew Gene the least amount of time, but Gene was one of the first county employees that I met when I came on council. And I said to myself, if every county employee knows their job just as half as much as this man knows his job, then this county is in really, really good hands. And so Gene always, just from the get-go, really, really impressed me. And I'm honored to be up here on this desk to honor Gene's life. Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the Falconberry family, I still have you in my prayers, and of course I do love you, Miss Daisy and the crew, and I just ask that you guys continue to band together. Family is sometimes all that you have and the strongest thing that you have. And for the younger folks of the family, you guys pick up the torch over there, Chief, and continue to press on and do the things that you know will make him proud and that he would want you to do. We love you, and if I can do anything personally or professionally, don't hesitate to call me. Thank you.
Tom?
We may replace him, but he won't ever be replaced.
Amen.
Very good. I'll conclude before we vote. This is how we do things here. This is not a funeral. This is a celebration, Miss Daisy.
Yes.
And to the parents of Gene Falconberry. You raised him right, and up on that Tornado Hill about 3 weeks ago, all of his people that he trained, Christy and all the rest of them, Keith, everybody was up on that hill, volunteer firemen, the whole team was up there doing their job. Sheriff was up there, everybody, getting it done. EMS was there. It was just amazing who was up on that hill carrying out and carrying on in the name and in the spirit of our great friend Gene. So there's no need for crying today. You can do that if you want, but I'm celebrating a wonderful life, and I hope this is the best we can do. This is how we do it here, but you know how we feel about you, Daisy, and we all sense the same loss in the same way. So with that, we move to a vote. All those in favor, so signify. And it is unanimous. Daisy, if you would bring the family up, we'd like to present this to you. Thank you. All right. We'll wait for the family to depart, and then we'll start again. Yeah. got it. I'll take the correction, but we don't need to do that. All right, with that, we move to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 2, another resolution by Kershaw County Council to approve the removal and relocation of an abandoned cemetery. It's at tab B. I would like first some explanation from the attorney, and then I'll read it for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is required by the statute, what you have to do if you want to relocate an abandoned cemetery. So this fairly quotes the statute, but the council will note that two attachments of note are one, an affidavit by William Cox, that the notice of the abandonment and moving the cemetery was published in papers required by law, and per his affidavit, they have received no responses. Furthermore, the landowner upon which the cemetery is located, the persons that are buried in the abandoned cemetery are related to the present owner.
Okay, very good. All right, with that, I'll read the resolution, take a motion, and I'm sure you'll get a question or two. Thank you for that opener. A resolution by Kershaw County Council to approve the removal and relocation of an abandoned cemetery. Whereas Luckstone Corporation has informed Kershaw County that it has an agreement for the purchase of property on which is located an abandoned cemetery, sometimes known as Gaskin Cemetery. And whereas the abandoned cemetery is located on an old flat rock road, Kershaw, South Carolina, which is immediately south of the existing Luckstone Corporation quarry. And whereas the abandoned cemetery is located within the boundary of the proposed expansion of the corporation's current quarry operations, and whereas it is likely that the expanded Luckstone quarry facility will disturb the abandoned cemetery, and for this reason, the corporation has requested that the abandoned cemetery be relocated pursuant to and following the requirements of the Code of Laws of South Carolina that sets forth the process for removal of abandoned cemeteries. And whereas the property is currently owned by Karen L. Gaskin, who, pursuant to the contractual agreement with the corporation, will convey the property to the corporation with one of the conditions of said conveyance being that the corporation will work with all necessary entities, including Kershaw County, to relocate any graves in the abandoned cemetery to a nearby location that will not be impacted by any expansion of the quarry. And whereas the conveyance of the property will take place shortly upon approval of this resolution by Kershaw County Council, with the ultimate removal and relocation of the abandoned cemetery to take place within 2 years of the conveyance. And whereas the bodies interred at the abandoned cemetery are biologically related to the Gaskin family, the current owners of that property, with the possibility of other unknown individuals interred in the abandoned cemetery as well. And whereas the corporation has presented to Kershaw County Council a copy of the Third Amendment to the agreement for the sale and purchase for the property of the abandoned cemetery for the purpose of establishing that under the act of the cemetery is abandoned because the conveyance will be without reservation of the cemetery or burying ground. And a copy of the agreement is attached. Whereas the corporation has provided 30 days of consecutive published notice in the Chronicle required by the Act, and evidence of that publication is provided by a certificate of publication. And whereas the corporation has certified through its legal counsel that no heirs of anyone buried in the abandoned cemetery have been identified through the notice process, neither the corporation nor the county has received objections to the removal and relocation. Whereas the corporation has assured Kershaw County that due care will be taken to protect any tombstones that will be replaced at the relocation cemetery, and that replacement will be done properly so as to leave graves in good condition as before removal, and that the corporation at its sole cost and expense will erect an appropriate monument identifying that those formerly buried at the abandoned cemetery are now buried at the relocation cemetery. And whereas the removal and relocation of the abandoned cemetery will be supervised by a South Carolina licensed funeral director, and an archaeological and engineering firm will oversee the relocation of the remains with all expenses incurred in the removal and relocation shall be borne by the corporation. And whereas the area to which the graves will be removed and relocated at the relocation cemetery is agreeable to the corporation and Kershaw County, and no relatives of the deceased persons buried at the abandoned cemetery have made any comment or objection. Whereas it is necessary and expedient to remove the graves and any monuments from the abandoned cemetery and relocate them to the relocation cemetery. Now, therefore, be it resolved by Kershaw County Council that the council approves the removal of the abandoned cemetery and relocation to the relocation cemetery. Be it further resolved that the Kershaw County Administrator and any other appropriate county official is authorized to take such actions and to execute documents as may be necessary to effectuate the purposes of this resolution to the extent this resolution contains provisions that conflict with provisions contained elsewhere in county resolutions, policies, procedures, and actions. The provisions contained in this resolution supersede all other provisions, and this resolution is controlling. And the resolution is effective upon adoption. Can we have a motion so to approve? Mr. Tucker, a second. Second from Mr. Snodgrass. Discussion. I would tell you that it has a certain thorough ring to it that is due to the handling of the remains of our lost citizens and whoever else may be there. And I think the thoroughness of this bespeaks a very good coordination in accordance with the laws we have given. Other discussion? Seeing there is none, we move to a vote. All those in favor, so signify. And it's unanimously approved. Thank you very much. We move now to approval of minutes dated 14 January 2020. They're at tab C. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gardner first, a second from Mr. Tucker. Any discussion? There being none, we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor signify. And the minutes are approved.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
And thank you again, Ms. Mary, as Mr. Tucker said. You can we move to ordinances. Item number 1 is the third reading of an ordinance to amend the Official Zoning Act, for which we ask Mr. Carpenter to take us through it one more time. Very good. And this is the third reading. Can we have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, I make that motion.
Mr. Snodgrass, second
Second.
from Mr. Gardner. Any discussion? You good for that? No questions, no discussion. We move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Very good. And it's approved on the third reading unanimously. Thank you very much, Mrs. Snodgrass, for bringing that in. Thank you, Johnny. With that, we move to item number 2, third reading of an amended and restated ordinance determining rules and order of business. It's at tab E, as introduced by Mr. Tucker. Can we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve third reading.
Mr. Tucker first, a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Bozar. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say there's no changes from second reading.
Okay, very good. Others?
Mr. Tucker, I just want to say thank you for working on this. You've always been a good steward when it came to the rules and policies of county council, and I appreciate that. And I think this is a good move.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Well, Mr. Jones, you made an understatement saying Mr. Tucker is a good steward of the rules. He always gets me after council and tells me what I did wrong. So,
As I said, a good steward.
thank you, Mr. Tucker.
Welcome, Mr.
Seeing any no further discussion, all those in favor, let's move to a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. And it's unanimous and adopted. And Mary, I think you'll have to post it up here in the next meeting. Very good. And we now move to the next new business as introduced by Mr. Tucker. What I propose is we go into an executive session. We'll need the sheriff there, I'll need the administrator, and I'll need legal advice from Tommy Morgan and Ken DeBose. Expect this will be a lengthy discussion. We will come out and we will likely have a vote if, depending on the outcome of the executive session. So with that, can we have a motion to retire to executive session with those named persons to return for a possible vote?
So made.
Mr. Bozard, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Tucker. Discussion? I imagine there will be some when we come back. All those in favor of going to an executive session, so signify. And it's unanimous and approved, and we'll move into executive session. Somebody get his jacket on.
Oh, okay. What's
There you
hot back
go.
there, Mr. Administrator?
Can we have a motion to return from executive
So
session?
moved.
We have first from
Second.
Mr. Gardner, second from Mr. Tucker. Any discussion? I will start out by saying we departed on a motion from Mr. Tucker,
Better vote on it.
and we're having discussion right now. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Tucker, and we came back, when we departed, we said we might vote on a subsequent motion. So with that, any further discussion on return from executive session? Seems there is none. Let's move a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand, and we are returned from executive session. With that, we return to the motion made and seconded by Mr. Tucker. And Mr. Tucker, you have the authority to lead us in discussion, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Council, and guests, find my paperwork. Y'all just bear with me, I'm a little off. Yeah, I would like to make a motion that we, I'm going to read it again for you. That we, the Kershaw County, pursuant to South Carolina Code 4-9-30, authorize the Kershaw County Attorney to seek injunction relief in the name of Kershaw County against a nuisance business. This motion is made because of the urgent circumstances exist in this item, and that's the reason why we're needing to act tonight. That is my motion.
Very good. That motion has already been voted on and seconded. We're now into a discussion phase. I think we can now expose that the sheriff asked us to take this action based on the principles inside the motion, and I think we ought to further explore that in a discussion phase.
And,
Your motion wasn't right.
why wasn't my motion right? When discussion?
We're not taking any action tonight. We're sending a letter.
We're going to have to vote on that. I need the attorney to help us here. I propose we have an instrument of action, which would be a letter to be sent. Now, I would like to get that before council formally, since we have changed it a couple of times. What's the best way to do that? Can you guys give me some advice here, and then I'll move forward on a judgment?
Morgan, I believe the action is under section 4-930-16.2, which was in the motion to add the item to the agenda. That's the agenda item. And I believe the council action is to send a cease and desist letter to a business operator who is in the judgment of the sheriff and Kershaw County, operating a nuisance business pursuant to that ordinance. Is that not correct, Mr. Morgan?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of council, that is correct. I have passed out before you a proposed cease and desist letter to be issued on behalf of Kershaw County Council upon the recommendation of the sheriff as it relates to the abatement of a nuisance business located here in Kershaw County. And I know the sheriff can speak a little bit as to any of the further investigation if need be, but a business in Kershaw County primarily engaged in the operation of a firing range, a weapons range. There's issues and complaints that rounds from that range are falling onto an adjacent property.
Yeah, just stop right there for a minute. What I want to do is introduce the letter formally in a motion. That's what I think we ought to do, right, Ken?
Yes.
So what I'd like to do is take a motion to accept the letter to, in some fashion, and then approve it. So Sammy, over to you.
Okay, and then I would like the letter read in its entirety. I make a motion that we approve the cease and desist letter that is recommended from our county attorneys.
Have a second. Second, and in accordance with that introduction, I should read the entire letter. Is that good for you guys? Let me make sure I've got the current one. I've got the one where you've added 2 sentences on the next to last and second from last questions. Okay, here we go. It's reference cease and desist letter. Please allow this letter to serve notice that Kershaw County Council is requiring, I guess I can mention the name?
Yes?
Sandhill Shooting Sports to cease and desist from operations at its location at 25 Mesa Lane, Lugoff, South Carolina, pursuant to South Carolina Code. Specifically, Sandhill's Shooting Sports is instructed to cease and desist from allowing individuals to fire weapons at its target ranges until remedial and corrective steps are taken to prevent fired ammunition from leaving the shooting range area in order to protect the public at large. On January 10th, 2020, the sheriff's office was dispatched to 22 Corporate Drive due to the discovery of bullets and damage to business operations located at the property. Upon arrival, the business manager notified the sheriff's deputies that during the previous week, roofers made repairs to more than 50 bullet holes to the roof at the building. In the process, several bullets and bullet fragments were recovered. During the investigation, it was noted that the Sandhills Shooting Sports weapon range is located approximately 2,000 feet from the building, and that the top of the berm, which forms the backstop for the range, is visible from the roof. As part of the investigation, the sheriff's office flew a drone from the outskirts of the range to determine the likely path of bullets fired from the range that could have impacted the building at 22 Corporate Drive. The sheriff's office concluded that rounds from the range were likely failing to be contained by the berm and impacting the building at 22 Corporate Drive. Paragraph 3. It is the county's understanding Mrs. Scott met with representatives of the business at the Corporate Drive on the 14th of January in an attempt to come together as good neighbors to resolve this public safety issue. However, the sheriff's office received a second complaint on the 20th of January. At that time, investigators went to 22 Corporate Drive and noted additional bullet holes in the roof of the building that were not present when repairs were performed on the 10th of January complaint. Investigators were able to collect additional bullets from both the roof and the parking lot. Additionally, dowel rods were used to determine the trajectory and path of the bullets. The path and trajectory angles were consistent with rounds being fired from the Sandhills Shooting Sport range. Second page, paragraph 4. Given the circumstances, Kershaw County is concerned for the welfare and safety of its citizens due to the danger presented by uncontained rounds fired at the range that enter onto property and possibly striking an innocent bystander. As such, this notice to Sandhills Shooting Sports has been authorized by County Council pursuant to the authority granted in South Carolina Code. This statute allows Kershaw County, quote, to obtain injunctive relief in the Court of Common Pleas to abate nuisances created by the operation of business establishments in an excessively noisy or disorderly manner which disturbs the peace in the community in which such establishments are located. End quote. Such injunctive relief will be initiated by a subsequent vote of Kershaw County, quote, not sooner than 10 days following noncompliance with a written notice to the owner of the offending establishment or his agent to cease and desist in the conduct of, or practice which disturbs the peace and good order of the area, end quote. Kershaw County Council hereby issues this cease and desist letter and directs Sandhill Shooting Sports to desist in the practice of allowing ammunition fired at its range from leaving the property and traveling onto other property, such as to create a safety hazard to the public, and which, quote, disturbs the peace and good order of the area, end quote. Kershaw County Council requires Sandhill Shooting Sports to present evidence that it has corrected the problem, worked with the neighboring property owner at 22 Corporate Drive to ensure no further rounds land on the building, and put in place protocols to prevent fired ammunition from leaving the shooting range area in order to protect the public at large. Should such steps not be taken, Sandhill Shooting Sports, upon recommendation of the Kershaw County Sheriff, Kershaw County Council will consider a subsequent vote to authorize seeking injunctive relief in the Court of Common Pleas and an order from the court abating the nuisance described herein. Final paragraph. Kershaw County Council is hopeful such actions are not necessary and encourages Sandhill Shooting Sports to work with the adjoining property owners to rectify the situation. However, Kershaw County stands ready to take necessary legal action to protect the public at large from the safety issue created by spent rounds leaving the range operated by Sandhill Shooting Sports at 25 Mesa Lane and landing upon nearby property. And it closes with a greeting. Discussion. Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that I appreciate my colleagues' input and their views upon this. And, I don't know how long this has been going on, but, I'm just getting wind, as I said, here recently. First and foremost, I want to say by thanking the sheriff for looking into this and seeing what could possibly be done as a mediator between the two businesses, because that did take place. And I appreciate your efforts there, Sheriff Bone, on trying to do that. That didn't come to a conclusion, so we're here today. And doing nothing, as we were discussing back there, for me, is not an answer. You cannot be a responsible gun owner. You cannot be a responsible target shooter, irresponsible target shooter. Bullets kill, hurt, and injure, and damage property, and that's a known fact. So I appreciate any support that my colleagues give us up here on this, and this is to get the process rolling. So hopefully these two parties will sit down again and see if they can work out some type of safe compromise that does not, that does not jeopardize the public safety or causes any injuries or property damage. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Who had our second? Mr. Gardner? Was that any comments, sir?
Both business to thrive and prosper. This is the first step to move this forward. No action will be taken until at least 10 days, and we hope that that 10-day or 2-week period will allow these parties to come together and solve this problem. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's a very serious issue where flying bullets are a serious issue, and I think we as a council, from a public safety standpoint, have to take a stand on it. Thank you.
Other comments?
Yes.
Mr. Jones, please go right ahead.
All right. No secret I was against this from the on-starting executive session. However, I do appreciate to my colleagues sending a letter out of notice. I appreciate that. Instead of taking action tonight, I appreciate y'all doing that. And to my understanding, no action will be taken. We hope these parties can work this out. And if it isn't worked out, then of course this council will come back and take a vote on action. Okay? Disappointed that Target has not gone and, if they think there's a danger there, why haven't they gone and taken action? That concerns me. But it comes to county council and the sheriff. He has come and he's asked for this. I'm supporting this letter on good faith. Our sheriff requesting it, and I tell you, folks, I'm going to tell you right now. I thank Ben Cannell for helping put this letter together, and I just hope that this comes to. I really hope that these two businesses can resolve this, and I'm going to talk with the property owner tomorrow as well and see if between he and the business that they can maybe get something worked out where this won't have to go any further. But again, this is just a letter putting them on notice. This is not taking any action to put somebody out of business yet. Okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I was just going to comment that this is just a letter, and it requires further deliberation by this council and another vote before any action regarding actual business operations would take place. And, of course, all parties involved will be afforded due process rights to put their case up, as it were. I hope it gets worked out, too. I patronize this business. I go there and shoot from time to time and enjoy learning about and practicing safe gun practices. But there's no doubt the sheriff has brought to us a safety concern. From what we've seen, they did a thorough investigation and can't be ignored. So I appreciate the work of everybody and also bringing this to our attention.
Again, bullet damage. And so that just, for me, just kind of helped me realize, okay, then this is certainly a possibility. So really hoping that these two parties work it out. Got two parties that are just trying to do the American dream. And I certainly want to support both of them in doing that. And but tonight, I'm thinking about the public safety of our citizens. Thank you.
I want to thank the sheriff for bringing this to our attention. But at the same time, I got to say, I feel like this is two businesses out there, and this is a civil matter. And the Target is asking us to do their work for them in handling this. But I don't think we should be doing that. This is Target's business. It's a civil matter. Let them lawyers take care of each other and let them take it to court. But anyway, I do appreciate all the effort been put into this. Thank you.
My vote on this letter tonight absolutely does not mean I'm going to vote in 10 days to shut a business down. I want to make that clear. I'm hoping that as I said, they'll get together and they'll work this out, and we'll see where it goes from there. Thank you.
Our vision document everywhere else that people are first. And it's common sense here when the sheriff comes in with his professional advice, and which I fully respect, that lives are at risk and jobs are at risk. And we're not taking sides of small versus big or big versus small. This is a simple matter of the security of our people. And we are compelled to act by the Home Defense Act under which this council is put together. And this letter, it seems to be a good start. I thank you all for your time. I want everybody to know it. We was in there for several minutes to go over this. This was not easily arrived at as a course of action, but I'm absolutely convinced it is. And I thank Mr. Carpenter publicly, our sheriff publicly, and Tommy Morgan, and also Ken, for working this hard with all parties to include the landowner, the range owner, and the business owner up on the hill in a way that tried to reach an accommodation. We thought we had a solution, but now we are having to do this course of action. I thank council for sitting through all this. There are pictures that are compelling that this action is not only necessary, but immediately necessary. And with that, I think we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And Mary, please record the vote as unanimous, and we can move forward with the letter. Let's see where we are in our agenda now. I think that's our last item, and I think we can move to council briefs. With that, Mr. Jones, you are lead.
Mr. Chairman, again, I just want to take a minute to say I appreciate the letters being sent out and no action being taken tonight. And again, I just hope this can be resolved civilly and peacefully. And again, I want to thank Mr. Connell for his outstanding contribution in the executive session, because I would have come out here and voted no. But we've got a chance now to hopefully let the parties get this resolved without us taking any action or voting on any action against any businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Snodgrass.
Report this evening.
Mr. Tucker.
Just very briefly, I want to thank all who was in attendance and made it out and pressed their way for the MLK Day celebration last week.
Good job.
Great attendance and an awesome program. So thank you. The ones who weren't able to make it, hope you'll try to make it next year. You're always welcome and invited, so don't feel like a stranger. Mr. Chairman, if you give me just one moment, I have a letter here, and I think I couldn't have opened it at a better time than tonight. And I think all of y'all received one, January 24th, from Ms. Kennard.
Yes, we all did.
I need to read this into the record because I think that it just really kind of hits home what we just did on being the responsible body when it comes down to gun safety. It says, Dear Councilman Tucker, having just read the Kershaw County's decision to pass the resolution disregarding any litigation limiting gun control, I am very distressed and disappointed. I'm expressing my concerns in a personal letter to each council member. I think of our laws for highway safety and guns use as a similar safeguards. When Model T Fords were the only cars on the highway, few rules were needed. As vehicles increase in power and abundance, laws governing how we were allowed to drive them became necessary to change and protect the citizens. As guns could become more powerful and abundant, guidelines for the use must be established to keep our communities safe. I do not see this as a slippery slope. Within the laws governing the highway safeties and qualifying drivers is free to enjoy traveling on public highways. Transportation has changed and traffic regulations have met new challenges. As available weapons change and regulations need to change to meet new safety challenges. Within these regulations, a qualified gun owner will remain free to bear arms. Gun violence is already a major problem. No legislation action, as recommended in this resolution, will certainly allow the problem to escalate. And what she's saying there makes plenty of sense. She's not against the Second Amendment, but we do have to hold each other accountable. We do have to be responsible gun owners, and we do have to do right by one another. Because people hold you responsible as a citizen doesn't make them an anti-citizen or anti-anything. They just want to live in a safe environment. So I thank all my colleagues for voting to help push this situation with our businesses in the right direction, and hope we can come once again to a resolution, an agreement that both business can continue to thrive and operate in Kershaw County. That concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gardner. Mr. Bozard. Mr. Connell.
Chairman, I would just again mention Chris Spitzer. There are not many who contribute as much as he does to the community. And for those who know him personally, they get to see how behind the scenes he helps those who are distraught, mourning, who've experienced hardship. He helps them personally, just counseling them, but also spiritually and guiding them in that way. And he's experienced a major, major injury. And I think he needs and deserves our prayers of healing, and that his family can support him in this very challenging time. That's all I have to report.
All right, and I'll close it out before turning it over to the administrator. First again, Chris Spitzer, keep him in your prayers. What a great man and a family of amazing, amazing devotion. And thanks to my fellow councilmen and all of you for honoring Gene and his wife Daisy and his family. That was very special and very important. Mr. Carpenter, I'm going to look to you to take care of this retreat stuff. So that's some housekeeping, some further housekeeping. I thank Mr. Kidd, Stuart Kidd, and Danny. You'll see on your emails the video that Mr. Jones was talking about. It's a great video, and we apologize for the technical failure, but if you'd like to see it, it is worth seeing. And it's also worth going to if you ever get a chance. I've been to just about every one of them. And last thing is we've been through a lot of material that wasn't announced to media in advance, for which we don't need to apologize. It was driven by exigent circumstances. But I look to Vic and the lawyers to provide the media, all of them, what package you can tonight, and then the closeout for tomorrow. And of course, that's just our cost of doing business, but thank you for that. So with that, we turn it over to you, Vic. Please take it away.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, one item to remind you that this is our planning weekend and goal setting. We will start Friday night with a meal as we have every year, and then Saturday morning we'll be meeting downstairs where we did last year in the emergency preparedness conference room. We will start, breakfast will be ready a little after 7. We'll officially start at 7:30 with welcome, and we'll run until approximately 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Report. I think everyone's aware. Good. Everybody's aware. Mr. Attorney.
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
With that, I'm ready to entertain a vote that we dismiss, please. Mr. Bozar, a second. Slow, Sammy. Mr. Gardner, second. Any discussion? Thank you.
You did a good job. Even though you didn't get the video up there, you did a great job tonight.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you.
It was a good job by all the staff. With that, let's take a vote. All those in favor, so signify. And it's unanimous, and we are excused.